We're at 905 West Sproul and checking the roof out. This roof is an older roof, exhibiting a lot of weakness. What we have here for composition is a gyp deck, and we believe it's gyp plank. I haven't examined it yet, but in discussing this with John, I'm pretty sure it's a gyp plank. And you can see what the composition is. You have just about 1.5 inches of built-up roofing. That's all asphalt from the gyp up. There's no insulation in there. Looks like there might be some slag that was scratched off at one time, but it's another bit of asphalt here. And that is a saving grace, because if the top surface is starting to leak, a lot of those lower surfaces can act as further lines of defense. And I think that's what's going on here. I think despite the looks, there's not a lot of reported leaks. You have a lot of asphalt here that's able to stop it in different areas before it gets all the way through. The gyp plank also acts as kind of an absorption instead of steel. Steel will just catch water and then let it out at the first opening, but gyp kind of absorbs. And here we have a problem with that. You can see that we're very weak here. This deck here is gone. If someone jumped on that, they'd go right through. That's completely lost its integrity. You can see the flashings on the wall, how wide open they are. That's really only typical in this area. The rest of the roof has some of it to some degree, but not nearly to this extent. So I'm just going to show you some of these areas. I mean, this is still wide open right here. You can see this crack here is wide open. Water's getting in there. And again, this is an overhang. So the fact that it's not hitting a living space where someone can report it, this is more like an exterior common area. You know, it's not getting the attention it deserves. It's really not being reported, or it's not causing a problem per se. Anytime you see white staining like this around a crack, this kind of white staining, that means water's going through there. It leaves a residue behind, just kind of like filters water as it goes through, and you get those deposits. They're just an obvious indication of a leak. So you have this going on at the perimeter. It's been patched with roof cement here, but you can see they did not use any fabric between the two portions that are splitting, and so the roof cement doesn't have enough strength to keep the split from happening. It's just splitting right through the roof cement. You really need to use a scrim up here for reinforcement. So we know the perimeter has plenty of issues, and that's just about the whole thing. Some worse than others, but the perimeter is definitely in need of attention. There's a couple of different surfaces on here. This is an asphalt surface, and you can see this is really, as scary as it might look, this is one of the better surfaces up here. The cracking that you got is limited to maybe 1/4 to 1/2 inch in the asphalt, and that's okay if that flood coat cracks a little bit. If the flood coat cracks, it's not creating integrity loss. It's just the flood coat cracking that can be fixed with aluminum coating. When we get into these tie-in areas, you can see the cracking gets deeper, and this is a problem here. This type of cracking, you can see the felt plies are lifting. Cracks in these areas are more severe. These are problems. And we have that here pretty bad. You can see how much asphalt is shrinking and moving in this immediate area. When we get into the penetrations, which is always where the problems are, it's never the feel of the roof. Very rarely does the feel of the roof create a problem. It's usually the penetrations. Penetrations are anything that stick up through a roof. Curbs, rails, pitch pockets, whatever. That's where we have a lot of problems. You can see you've got some cracking right here on this curb. I mean, that's wide open. This is completely open. I mean, that's wide open. Here's that white staining I was talking about. You can see this is definitely taking water through here, and of course this is all open too. You know, it's all open in here. Water's going somewhere. More of the same here. Problems in these areas. Here, this is open. A lot of openings here. Here's another one that's more or less wide open. So that's just typical. That's not the exception. That's the rule up here. There's a lot of areas that are wide open. Here's some more right here. Here's one that's very much open. Doesn't get any more open than this. I mean, that's, you're looking right down there. That's wide open. So it's our opinion that this roof is failing. It's not about to fail, it is failing. With all that said, there's so much asphalt underneath everything that it's able to stop most of it. And the gyp plank below that acts as a sponge of sorts to collect the rest of it. You got, you know, the drainage up here isn't the best either. There's a pump up here that's collecting water and pumping that as it ponds up. You can see there's a pond in the middle here. Anytime you see this kind of debris on the roof, this stuff here, that's sediment from standing water. Well, this whole area is underwater. You can see someone's got a pump up here to try and keep it minimized. So there certainly are issues up here. The drains themselves are also a little scary looking. I mean, anytime you see a drain, it's been completely sealed with roof cement like this has, and this is how they all look. This drain is now on its last leg. This is the kind of stuff that you do as a last resort. Drains are cast iron and they have flashing systems and plumbing connections, and when you start sealing them with roof cement, well then it's just you've reserved yourself to the fact that you're doing everything you can as a last resort, including sealing everything in sight. So the overview on this roof is not good. It does not look like it's going to be a reliable roof too much longer. But with that said, you've got so much asphalt on here, you're able to stop the majority of leaks. A good test would have been last winter. Last winter was a severe winter. If you had problems with this roof, they should have reared their heads last year. Last year would be a test for this roof. And using that as a gauge, you know, you should have some idea of how well this roof's going to perform despite all the weaknesses we just identified. So if we know that last year we had some leaks, but it wasn't extreme, it wasn't out of control, then you can start thinking it might be possible to squeeze 2-3 years out of this roof as is, and just doing it as a response, not anything proactive, just strictly reactive. If your people inside have tolerance and they can live with immediate service instead of zero tolerance where nothing's allowed, no leaks are allowed, then you might want to try this approach. To get there though, you're going to have to do some immediate repairs to try to bring this roof up to a manageable level. It's not there yet. There's way too much here that could crack wide open in the winter on you and cause a lot of problems. So I guess with all that said, you want to try to do the obvious repairs, and I'll certainly give you a cost on that. That would include this area here that needs to be redecked. And then the perimeter, sealing the perimeter where necessary. And then certainly all the penetrations and cracks in the field of the roof that need to be addressed. And if you do all those things and try to you hit the obvious stuff, and the person that's doing that becomes familiar with your roof, and he gets an understanding of where the weaknesses are, and you know, what's really going on, how it's performing, you can then manage it pretty well with that person. That person then becomes an expert with your roof. He's familiar with it. He knows what to expect. He knows how water's traveling beneath the surface. And you're able to pull off that 2 to 3, maybe even more nursing effort to prolong re-roofing. But like I say, it's going to take a while to get there. You're not anywhere near that yet. You'd have to spend, I'm thinking you'd have 2 guys up here for maybe 3 to 4 days just going around and trying to correct all these weaknesses. And once you get that done, you would have a fighting chance then of having a roof that could be managed for those additional years.